I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next on the agenda is open forum, public input. I don't see anyone here for that.
Ms. Kufka, you got
Got
anything?
anything?
PA, just taking notes.
Okay.
Nope,
So you drew the short end of the stick.
yup. At least I didn't get the July meeting.
Okay.
All right, so we'll move to approve agenda. Changes to agenda.
What was published was in discussion A through E, so F is what? The only difference there. F
Okay.
did not make it in that paper, so
Okay,
that's,
under discussion items, we'll add
Yep,
F
F.
for separation of athletic director duties.
yeah, that's it.
And then I need a motion for the changes and to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Schoenfelder, second by Leishman. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
All right, no conflicts of interest that we're aware of that have been added.
I know.
So we'll move to approve consent agenda. The school board will review the minutes from the July board meeting and the claims for August. The board will approve the following extracurricular contracts for the 23-24 school year. Nicole Roth, assistant FFA advisor. Daryl Bray, kitchen helper. Jason Weber, assistant football. Dan Bonte, head wrestling. Jeff Harris and Brady Knowles, assistant wrestling. Aaron Denning, middle school volleyball. Sean Jolly, middle school boys basketball. The school board will declare surplus the following food service supply rack and art kiln with the value of at least $500. The following checks need to be voided: 60448 to Morgan Backs for $10, 61059 to Tiffany Wenzel for $1.90, 62537 to Gordon Sepola for $10, 63033 to Ethan Poor for $20, 62446 to Sam Benson for $10.
There's one more, Adam Fisher also for assistant football. It was not in there.
Oh, okay,
Pretty sure it was not included on his original contract. We had to do another
Okay.
one. We just haven't got it done yet.
okay.
Yeah, I thought, yeah. Yeah, there it is.
Okay, so
Sorry, Mr.
did you get that added then, Craig, to the?
Yes.
Okay.
I had it in there, I guess. I didn't even realize it wasn't on the blue sheet. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. So A is approved July minutes, B is approved claims, C is approved contracts, D, declare items surplus, and E is void canceled checks. I need a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Moved by Turner, second by Prohl to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, we'll move to information discussion staff reports, and we'll start with, do you have anything for Cole?
Just what was
Here.
handed out here, so, I mean, if you can read it, I guess, if you want me to read it, it doesn't.
You want me to read it
Yeah,
out loud?
that would be fine.
Okay. It says update on classrooms. Several staff have relocated and the rooms are ready to roll. Mr. Huber, Mrs. Andera, and Mrs. Overham have all settled into their new homes, and we have come up with a solid interim solution for Mrs. Weggehop until our new high school office is ready and we can move out of her permanent home. I have been very encouraged by the setup we have in the short term and the one we will have in the long term. Schedules for all grades 6 through 12 as well as over at our home have been distributed and are ready to roll. The usual number of schedule change requests have trickled in over the last week and a half, but we will enter day one of school in good shape. Class sizes are in good shape. A few of the freshman classes will be full rooms, 24 to 25 students, but the rooms are big enough to handle the crew. We had a great first day of staff pre-service development. I really feel we are building towards a common goal and a positive school culture for the staff and students alike. We have 10 new students on our end of the building total in grades 6 through 12. We are excited to welcome them into our school community. If you have any questions, send an email or give Cole a call. Thanks.
Does he mean 10 higher than last year or just 10?
So overall, ADM wise, last time I looked, that was at the end of last week, we were 542, I think.
Which was
540 or 542, and last September we got paid on 544. So we're pretty good. We were considering maybe a 30 kid swing. So we're ahead
And the budget was built on how many?
of the
532, I believe.
Budget was built on.
The budget? What did we build that on?
Right around 530, I thought.
I thought it was 530 something. Yep.
Low 30s. It was, I thought we were down 12 or 14 at the time. that
So
we were
we're
building.
ahead in that respect, actually.
Okay. Anything else about that? All right, we'll move to Mr. Fisher.
Okay. Well, same as kind of Cole mentioned, we welcome back staff today, which was great to be able to get back together with them. And we had a great speaker to kind of start our day, motivational. Mr. Nebelseck came in and gave a great kind of speech to kickstart things for us. From there, we kind of split up and we just went through and we talked about, so last week our school improvement team met, and so today our elementary team presented what our school improvement goals are going to be for the elementary. And so we came up with goals for ELA, and we have a reading and a writing goal. We have one math goal, we have one science goal, and then we have 2 goals for our climate. When I say climate, we're talking about the students in the building. We're focusing on trying to lower social conflicts and lowering social anxiety, which are 2 things that we identified based on Ms. Kinghorn's data and the students and parents that she worked with throughout the course of the year. So our team met last week and then presented to the rest of the elementary today, and that went really well. We just kind of talked about how, kind of what Cole mentioned, collectively we want to work together to vertically align everything that we're doing. And it was kind of interesting because we were in separate rooms, elementary and high school, as we were creating these goals, and our ELA reading goal is almost identical. We're focusing on nonfiction reading, informational texts, and how we want to be able to summarize and come up with supporting details. So, it really shows you that if we can really hit on what we think will help improve in those areas, it should really improve K-12, which is pretty exciting stuff. So, that's kind of some of the stuff we went through today. We talked about how we're going to reach some of those goals. Obviously, we set those goals last week, so we still need to put a few things in place there. But excited about how the first day. I think the staff's excited to be back. As you guys just talked about, enrollment-wise, we're looking good. We're pretty much maxed out. Preschool, we're at capacity. We're at 39, so we do have one just left. So we got room for one more if they came up late. But kindergarten, we're at 20. Kindergarten, we're at 39. It just keeps getting bigger. We got 3 sections of first grade. I think we're 44 in first grade and 42 in second grade. So numbers are looking really good in the elementary. It's going to be fun to have a full house, and we're going to figure out some strategies to make sure we're all moving in the right direction. But so an exciting first day back on that front, and we do our elementary open house tomorrow night from 5 to 7. We are doing that a little bit different. This year we aren't having our kindergarten or kindergarten attend the open house. We've been specific and intentional about some of our choices. Last spring when we went through the screening process for our new kindergartners, we were talking about it, and we do a pretty thorough job in the spring, but then we don't do anything else, and we welcome them in on the first day of school and try to hit the ground running. Not to mention, if it's a new family coming in for a kindergarten open house, you maybe get 10 minutes in that classroom to meet the teacher, and it could be your first big time school experience. So what we've done this year is we are scheduling out now, so the kindergartners and kindergartners won't start school until the 21st, like our preschoolers. So that now we've taken those 2 days, we've scheduled 30 to 40 minute appointments with the teachers so they can come in. They're going to do a little assessment to meet kids where they're at, because sometimes we see some summer regression or acceleration for that matter, whatever it may be. And also you get time to really sit down and talk with your teacher and see the classroom, drop off your school supplies. We want that first school experience to be something that doesn't feel rushed and like we're trying to get you out the door. So we're doing that this year. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to really help, especially kids or families that maybe it's their first school experience, really kind of take a deep breath. One of our school climate goals again is lowering anxiety. We want those little guys to come to us with, feeling comfortable and feeling excited. So we are changing that up. So that'll be the first year doing that. just in case you get any questions on that. But otherwise, we're going to be welcoming preschool and 1st through 5th graders for our open house event tomorrow night. So we'll hit the ground running from there, and school on Thursday, so pretty exciting. Activity standpoint, things are off and running. I think last count, a couple people have double registered, so you gotta take that with figure that in, but probably around 145 kids registered for athletics. So we got a lot of people involved. All sports are going. We actually had our first competition today. Golf was at a competition. They have 2 tournaments right away this week, so one today and one tomorrow. And so things are rolling. I think coaches are doing a good job. Everybody's getting what they need to do to be ready to go, and kids are, worked hard for this, so getting things off. So that's going well as too.
Friday.
Yep, first home football game Friday. Volleyball, we won't have a home event for a couple weeks yet. We got a couple on the road right away, so but we got air now, which will be nice. So that'll be increase our and just maybe calm everybody down a little bit in the environment in the armory. So should be good. So that's kind of the report there. Mr. M, would now be okay time to look at the handbook, or is that a different? I couldn't remember.
It's on the
That's later.
agenda items. We'll circle back.
Okay, circle back to that. Okay. Other than that, I think that's all I have for my report. Any questions or anything there? Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Recommend.
Yes, so we're circling back from May when we had our conversation with Dakota Educational Consulting about the strategic plan. And the directive at the time that was given, and we had the discussion about, okay, reprioritizing that. And allowing us to spend some time as administrators to put priority in place. There's several action steps in there, so we wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to come up with an approach that we felt comfortable with, and then now we're bringing it back to you guys. And the conversation that I had today with the staff was about the strategic plan and my role in today's in-service and going over those action steps. And we did put priority as far as what's going to happen and the time frame in which it's going to happen. So we didn't change any of the action steps. We just kind of moved them around as to where they fell in order. So we're reporting back to you for the first time to start the school year, and the decision is made that we will report quarterly back to you on the strategic plan, so it becomes a living, guiding, breathing document. It's not something that's going to go in a shelf and stick away and we're never ever going to talk about again. The staff was made aware of that. I think you guys support that, and we'll be intentional about keeping you up to date on this document as we go. So if you had questions on it, you could ask that now, but just to draw your attention, I don't want to spend a huge amount of time because you've already seen this back in May. Essentially what we did there in the 3 goal areas, and that's parent advisory, team building, communication, collaboration, professional development. You'll see different colors there, and you can see the dates on there when some of those action plans and priority sequence are going to take place. So early on, August, September, probably a red color. Quarterly is probably something that you see in the yellow, and then green, probably something more that's going to happen in the spring of the year. Okay, so that is our strategic plan. Like I said, the staff hadn't really seen this concept. We went over it today, and I'll share the whole entire plan with those people as well. So any questions about the strategic plan? Okay.
Everybody pretty receptive?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't like I opened the floor for debate and comments. Part of it was because of the time factor today. But once they get it, they look at it. I think they understand the notion behind it. Several of them, there's head shaking based on what has happened in the past from like an accreditation perspective, where you jump through a bunch of hoops, you put it in a binder, and you stick it on the shelf, and it doesn't really guide what you do. And you don't look at it again until another 5 years when you have to go through accreditation again. They understand, I think, the premise and what our approach is with this, that it becomes continuous, right? And it's not something that's going to go away. And I think they've I don't know, whether they've accepted that fact or not, we'll see. You know, but they certainly, I think they understand the premise behind it, so. School improvement plans. Maybe you heard Mr. Fisher reference to his. That was also in your packet. You should have something from the elementary as well as something from the middle school, high school. They look like this concept, okay? And it was behind some of that colored information that I put in your packet as well. And I'll address that here in a second, okay? But our school improvement plans, based on the work in May and based on what would happen last week when I brought the school, the SIT, I call them SIT teams. So when you hear SIT, school improvement teams, so SIT teams. I'm sure there's a better acronym for that, but that's kind of just what we go with. They got together that day. They put a whole day in based on some of the work that we did in May, and they looked at data from our Smarter Balance Assessment or South Dakota State Assessment. And we wrote these goals. Now, when they write these goals moving forward, if you really read into it and get in the nitty gritty, sometimes it'll reference as the measurement component of things other than Smarter Balance or South Dakota State Assessment, which is fine. That's their prerogative, each school level, to discern and decide what data component they want to use to establish the goals and then to keep track of those goals. So both schools have a math goal, a reading goal, a science goal, and a school climate goal. And I think that's the most important part. Some identified more than one in one area, or each school. It's just kind of what fit them. And I think that's the most important part. This too will become a living, breathing, guiding document. It's something that we will constantly talk about, something that we'll circle back on, and something at the end of the year, there's some components in the plan that teachers are going to be expected to do that we'll have data from to help justify, okay, how did we do? Did we move the needle? Okay, and most of these plans you can see on there that the time frame is 25, 26. So we're in 23, 24, 24, 25, and then 25, 26. So they're 3-year school improvement plans. We're not gonna ride the horse for 1 year and then, okay, let's do something different. There's gonna be consistency and continuity within what we're doing here. And see if we can really make an impact over 3 years worth of time based on what these goals, or what those teams have established as goals, okay? So I was proud of the work that they did. They had some great discussions in there. I set the tone for them that day. I kind of gave them the expectation and helped them get established as to the process that they needed to do in order to go through this and discover what the data was telling them, and then they wrote it. And then I helped support it. I cleaned a lot of the language up. I made sure that the goals were specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, realistic, and time. It's a SMART goal. If you haven't heard of a SMART goal, that's what the acronym stands for. You want all of those components associated with a good, solid goal that they can work towards. Okay. So, any questions on the school and district or each school's improvement plan? And if you haven't got a chance to read it yet, please do so. I mean, then you have a better understanding of what our mission, what our vision and actual purpose of our overall statement, but where we're going to hang our hat for the next 3 years. Okay. Ms. Kufka, you got any comments? Because you were on one of those teams about
It was a good working day. I felt like, I guess
the
I
process and what you learned.
I didn't pay attention to, when we presented today, I didn't look at the elementary goals, but what Mr. Fisher says makes sense, that they're doing it on the elementary, that we can build on it up there. I thought our staff at our end today was really perceptive, like everyone was on the boat drinking the Kool-Aid today that we were dishing out, so, no, seemed good.
So they didn't throw rotten eggs or onions at you guys and run you out of the room?
And Jadozi got his thing done in 2 minutes, so it was great. No, it was good.
Okay, thank you. So that's the school improvement plans. The other component that goes along with that are these documents, things that got some color to them. These are also going to become part of our culture. And I talked to the school improvement teams about these, and I guess my premise is, so if people hear or you hear comments, that things like this, and oftentimes in school settings, you see a lot of things in teachers' rooms displayed. And there's nothing wrong with that. These will go in the expectation that they will be in teachers' classrooms. And When I first did this whole concept way back when, the staff at the time I was working with said, well, Mr. M, that's just a gimmick. It's just a gimmick. And the recognition and the elephant in the room is, you're right, it is. But it doesn't have to be. And if we're intentional about using these as guiding documents and referencing and going over it with our kids and holding our kids accountable and actually holding ourselves accountable as teachers, these types of documents can help change the tide and set the tone for what you want the culture to be. So I felt it was important to add this to the steps that we're taking as far as the school improvement plan at each end and our strategic plan as a whole. So I wanted to share them with you guys. That's why they're in your packet. I'm not going to take the time to go through them, but if you haven't read them, you can see some acronym approach to that, which I think is really kind of neat. And all the credit goes to Mrs. Kafka sitting here, because what I gave them during the sit teams was very unaesthetic, very unappealing, and she basically told me, Mr. M, I will not display that in my room unless I get an opportunity to make it look more appealing.
It looks good.
I did say that.
Good job.
So sorry, John.
Very aggressive.
That was very loud.
Did you see the force in which he came down with?
It landed on Matt. He didn't hit him that hard when it landed on him.
But all the credit, I want to thank Mrs. Kafka publicly there, and I did this morning too. She's done a nice job, and she's actually has a flair for that. So it looks a lot better, trust me, than what I gave the staff. So we're going to laminate this stuff. We'll disperse it throughout our footprint, and the teachers will be held accountable for this stuff. And we'll talk more about this during some of my time tomorrow with the staff, because they really didn't get to hear my spiel as to reasons and rationale today as to why we're doing some of this stuff. So just wanted to share that with you guys as well.
Will that get posted somewhere for parents? And
So it'll become part of what we, you'll see it through all the footprint, so it'll be here. The difficulty it is potentially, and I haven't talked to Tony about this, but it's hard. We could link it to the website, but then trying to not finding it wouldn't be hard, but you can't really put it on the website that this thing's going to jump off the website at you. You'd have to go dig for it.
yeah.
So I'm thinking about ways to how to disperse this kind of information and just easeability. The last thing we want to do is kill 15 trees to
No,
get this
I
stuff
just
on
like
the parents.
even down in the
So-
entryway up on the screen.
Yeah.
Like, will it be displayed
Yeah,
there?
it's gonna be in very visible places
That's good.
throughout
Yeah.
the footprint, not just in classrooms, but main hallways and our armory, cafeteria and things of that nature as well. So
Could it even be flashed on like Trojan TV during a timeout or a break?
that's above my pay grade, Mr. Turner. That'd be more
Tony, let's go.
So, yeah, I think that'd be handy.
something of that nature. But
I
yeah,
agree. So that parents can see what the kids
Absolutely.
are, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they'll see it here,
Community
but,
members,
yeah, too. People who aren't always in the school, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
this is neat.
I like it a lot. And it looks beautiful.
Other than that, unless you had questions about the assistant advisor or behavior behavior, I just threw that stuff in there. And it's stuff that we talked about, the assistant, so you actually know what's happening in that position. And they came up with that, and I think it's relevant. And then a very behavioral, I've been talking with Lindsay and Haley over there, and we've come up with this approach. We're gonna offer it, we'll get that information out to the staff, or to the parents as well, and we'll see where it goes. We still have Lewis and Clark Behavioral Health as a footprint here, but this hopefully expands our opportunities to maybe reach out to some parents. And the easeability is that they'll come here to see them. And so the parents don't have to take time off work or whatever, they sign the right documents, and obviously no cost to the school district to provide that, and we just provide space and the time for kids, those who need it, for mental health services. So,
She won't be here all the time, just as needed?
yeah, it's 1 day a week.
Okay.
Yep, 1 day a week, and actually it's probably starting half a day is what we're gonna start with, so.
So she'll be in the building?
They're coming here. That's
And
the
they
whole
like don't
point.
have appointments set up, they'll just come here and be here available?
They'll come here when we get this information out and the parents reach out, and then they'll start seeing those kids.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's not gonna be an open door, first come, first served.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Yep, they will have patience to see when they do come. It's just coming to the school in order to do that.
That's nice,
So,
yeah.
It's a pilot program.
You know, I guess if you wanna call it a pilot, John, you can probably call it that. We're just, yeah, it's the first time we're going down that road with Avera. Like I said, we do work with Lewis and Clark Behavior out of Yankton. They do have a footprint here, something very similar, but they're limited in their staff, they're limited in their time, and I know we have more of a need for that. And some of it is prohibitive because the parents don't necessarily get off work or have to take off work in order to take the child down there. So this is easeability, parents sign the right forms, they work with Avera. Avera is here on whatever day they decide to come, what works for those parents, and then we'll go from there. So I think it'll be a good thing, so.
I had a question, on a whole different subject, but our two principals are needing coaches. Did we run out of possibilities for those positions?
Run out of possibility.
I
Like
mean-
people didn't apply or didn't want the position, or?
I mean, are they filling in coaching positions because anybody else in the staff?
Oh, yeah, offered?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yep, so when Mr. Knipling, we went through that process, we advertised for that. Yep, and then, you know, best fit, and same with Mr. Fisher being assistant football.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's
Yep.
fine, I'm just wondering,
Yep.
we just couldn't find staff to,
Yeah, they're not beating down the door.
I,
Well, we
that's,
only had 2 new hires, and that didn't help matters either.
And one filled our golf vacancies
Actually, he's doing 3 coaches
and junior basketball.
Hockey?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
and FBLA advisor.
Yes.
So we saddled him with 4 things.
He probably loves it though. Seems like he
Yeah,
loves
he
that
does.
kind of stuff.
And then we didn't,
And our other one was
we didn't have
a
to do any arm twist, and he said, yeah, no problem.
second grade teacher.
oh,
Yep.
You know,
And she's, I think, gonna take a track, assistant track.
Is she gonna?
And yes, so Ms. Schoenfelder, our other opening, she's gonna do, she's a cross-country track person by trade, but we have a
We have assistant track.
assistant
opening,
track.
so She's gonna take that.
Nice.
so, I mean, of the years I've been on the board, it's always been a challenge. So, if we look at the big picture, is it because of time constraints, family, not enough pay? I mean, what do you think the real catch is?
Honestly,
Yeah,
I mean, you got 2 exceptional people in those positions, and actually all of our people. But the notion of coaching is becoming disenfranchised. People are going into education now. Those that want to be teachers, they would rather, they put all their eggs in the teaching basket rather than any notion about coaching. You know, I'll give you my story. The only reason why I'm here today is because I wanted to coach. And back then, and still today, you can't coach without being an educator. So I was kind of like, okay, I gotta be a teacher? Oh, okay. You know, but obviously things work out. It's not the case anymore. People aren't going into education because they want to coach, or very few of them. Or they have aspirations for that head job or even something greater than. So it's a combination of time, families, pay, lack of pay, or the time that you put in. Once you actually pencil it out and you put the hours into it and do the math on it, I don't know, I suspect you're probably maybe, what, $3 an hour, Greg? I mean, when you stop, I'm talking all your film,
I
I'm
never.
talking all your camps, I'm talking,
Mr. Bruning's a good example.
yeah,
He wants to do it.
yep. And these people want to do that. I mean, people that we have in the positions, there was no arm twisting there, per se, but the elephant in the room is the mistreatment, especially in the head coaching positions from the public. Whether it's the community in of itself or the parents in of itself. We graduated from parents being, when we all grew up, you know, was that notion that, yeah, you will do it, no, you won't quit, you're gonna stick with it, to helicopter parents that are constantly, they're coming to practice with the kid, and they're doing all these things, and they're doing the drills in the practice, and that's a little absurd, I get it, but that happens. And now we've moved past helicopter parents to bulldozer parents. Now you get behind me, I will protect you, and we will run over anybody and anything in our path to achieve what we want as parent and child for a goal. We don't care who we hurt in that process, and that's becoming more and more prevalent. So, is that worth the $5,000 you pay me to coach kids? No, not really. I mean, that's kind of what is happening with that whole notion, so, but, yeah, it's, nobody really wants to do that anymore. So it's a combination of all that, truly is. We're pretty good here. I think our schools around in our area, our size of schools, you know, I mean, we have displays of animosity within our gyms and in our football fields, and some of it's directed at coaches, some of it's directed at players, some of it's directed at officials. It shouldn't be happening, but it does, you know, and it sours people, especially those people that are taking all of their time, especially time away from their family, to try to be supportive of kids and help kids, and all you get is ridicule, or you get questioned about, you know, that was a stupid call, or that's a stupid play. Why did you press? Why didn't you call it off? You getting killed. I mean, constant armchair type of reverberations and comments from people, you know, and you come to the conclusion it's not worth it. You know, I was fortunate. I coached football for 32 years, but I never sat in the head chair. And for that particular purpose, I would have much better off and be supportive and give me everything you want me to do and go coach the crap out of the kids and coach the positions and do that stuff. I coached head track for 7 years. And even way back when, I mean, I had to deal with some of that stuff. Now, why is that kid in that relay and not this one? Well, because when I lined him up, he beat me. Well, that's not fair. I'm pretty sure it is. You know, stuff like that. Well, they worked hard for that. Or you pulled them out of the relay. They've been doing it all year. Well, we're trying to get to the state track. You know, stuff like that. But, I don't know. Probably more of a rant than you wanted to hear, John, but that's...
No, I need an answer.
That's just my feedback, my 2 cents as to what I see in 30-plus years of being in education as to the trend. I don't know. I mean, you got a head coach sitting here and, you know, one sitting back there who's been a head coach for 15 years at a very high level. So, you know, if they want to comment, they can. So, if you have something to add. We do a lot of good things, but we always strive to be better too. So. Okay.
All right, do you have
Nope.
anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, we will move on to discussion items. Discussion item A is to review policy manual. The following ASB SD policies are being presented for review in a first reading. CBG, CC, CCB, CD, and CE. This is just a first reading. Did anyone have questions on any of those? Looks like it was superintendent evaluation, administrative organization plan, lines of authority and staff relations, management team, administrative councils, cabinets, and committees. Did anybody have questions on those when you reviewed them? Okay. All right, we'll move to discussion item B, policy review section. B, second reading. BJ, CA, CBA, CBB, CBC. Those would have been in the last board packet. Any comments on those? All right, we'll move to discussion item C, review policy manual. The following ASBSD policies are being presented for review and adoption. BFC, BFCA, BFF, BHAA, BHD. So if there are no questions about that, I just need a motion to approve those policies.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Leishman, second by Schoenfelder to approve those policies. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, we'll move to discussion item D, which is softball cooperative with Eaton School District.
So that's a discussion item. I believe timeline, June. I remember June. We took information, we had some public comment on that, and, the request to offer or sponsor softball for the spring of this coming school year. And I believe the consensus was, yes, you will do that. And with the caveat that the funding component of that, we'll sign the paperwork going in the Activity Association. And the group that was here basically asked for that without the necessary financial support, that they had all of those boxes checked, so to speak. So I believe in conversations with Mr. Hawkins up there, and I know Ms. Havik, who kind of led the charge on some of this information in June, that they had some Ethan kids playing in their summer program. And I think the conversation had started once they found out that Parkston offered that for the 23-24 school year. So I think there's probably 2, 3, 4 girls up there that would like the opportunity, and therefore you see the email that I received from Mr. Hawkins about expanding on the opportunity. We already have cooperative agreements for cross-country, for track, for wrestling, for gymnastics. So kind of expanding that footprint in a cooperative perspective. So you see the letter, you basically asking, hey, would we consider? So that's where we're at, and I'll be quiet and let anybody have questions or entertain. So.
So in cross-country and track, is that different than wrestling and gymnastics, or are they the exact same way? Why did we change
They're all
the
the same
names
way.
and colors? Is gymnastics blue and orange, or is?
Gymnastics does not associate with a mascot, and because they're leotards,
They don't?
no
do
rhyme
that?
or reason as far as school colors.
Okay, and then, so why is wrestling different? Why does wrestling have blue and orange, but the others don't? I'm just curious. I don't care, I'm just asking.
I don't know either, but it's only minor students from Ethan.
Sure.
2 or 1.
I mean, it makes sense that you would split it. I'm just curious why one is different than the other.
Story I heard is that was kind of the agreement that we were
Okay.
going to change.
Okay, I was just curious.
But I don't know, it was before my time.
I
Yeah,
agree, that's what it was. They didn't want to change the name.
well, and now there's what, one Ethan student? Was Wyatt from?
One.
Two?
One varsity one, but there were a couple younger ones.
Okay, okay.
And then our youth program has a lot.
Yeah, sure, okay. Okay, so like what would do we know what the colors would be, or will it look like a Parkston team, or will it look like a co-op team?
I think all that's,
To be decided?
yeah.
Yep.
I was just
My
curious.
guess is they'll probably use the city uniforms,
Oh, okay.
more than likely, just like they did during the summer.
I think that is the plan.
I think that-
I mean, they're gonna go buy new ones probably, not right away.
The work in the cooperative agreement that I presented to you guys in with respect to PEH gymnastics component, several of those components will be within this component. It was the question, let's not put the cart before the horse. If there's no interest on Parkston's part to expand the cooperative and allow that to happen, then we don't have to have that conversation. So now, if there's something that you decide to say, hey, yep, more than willing, let's talk about it, or let's put an agreement together, then things like, mascot name, school colors, things of that nature, practice, uniforms. My conversation with Mr. Hawkins, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, essentially, our girls just want the opportunity, so however you were gonna run it, we're on board.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just curious.
But doesn't mean that we won't further vet that, so. And we have we have to put it in at the end of October for the November Board of Control meeting, an application for a cooperative. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fisher?
That is correct, but one thing, remember that we talked about for tonight is, I don't think we ever made an official board motion about accepting softball or sponsoring, however we want to word that, just to forward on to the state high school league, so that they know that we're actually going to have a team for sure.
I think we did some research on that. Adam talked to Joe Alk out at Pier, And she said, he asked me, what do we need?
It
She
was
said,
just
I need
discussion.
a board minute publication that somebody, one of you five said, I make a motion to sponsor girls softball. I second that motion, all in favor, boom. And Craig went back and looked in his notes from June, and the
Just
discussion
discussion.
item only, but I don't, for whatever reason, we never made.
I haven't listened to the
I
tape.
thought we took a vote.
I thought we did too.
I listened to the tape.
Yeah, he went back and watched the video.
We definitely took a vote, though. I know we did. We absolutely did.
I don't remember the vote, but I thought it was a done deal, just do the
So
relatively
did I, yeah, I thought we
no cost
voted
per
on
se.
it. Okay, whatever, it doesn't matter.
So if anything comes
Okay.
from it, then we still need to do that.
So we need a motion for that, as well as if we want to do a co-op.
To just sponsor, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have thoughts or comments? I don't, it does, yeah, I'm fine. I want the kids to be able to play, so.
Yeah. I motion that we sanction softball.
And have a co-op?
Well, I thought we did that as a separate one, so I mean, however you guys
Yeah.
want to do that.
Moved by Schoenfelder and seconded by Turner to, does it have to be sponsored or is it sanctioned, or what's the wording that it has to be?
Yeah, you will offer the sport of girls softball as a sanctioned sport.
First and school district.
I know I kind of redundant there, but
They'll
it
offer
works with that.
girls softball as a sanctioned sport. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Post same sign. Motion carried.
My only question with this co-oping is, this is just year by year, correct?
So any
It's
agreement.
perpetual, but I mean, if we would.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, if you leave, I think within the confines of the agreement, that would be something where it's gonna roll. Unless there's some stipulation that you put in the agreement that this is gonna be visited on a yearly basis, and make that statement within that, then it gives you certainly opens that door and gives you the opportunity to relook at that. Typically, when cooperatives are put in place, they're there, it's perpetual, it just keeps rolling, you don't have to resubmit paperwork every year. And the way to get out of a co-op is, alls it takes is one of those schools to submit a dissolution, an application for dissolution. And activity association, whatever.
Just in real quick, looking at some of these, gymnastics, I guess I'm not real familiar with that, but I know wrestling, we probably have the lion's majority of
We do.
people that wrestle.
Absolutely.
Where do we rank as far as softball goes? Do we have enough for this dog to hunt on its own, per se?
That's the thought, yeah.
We do?
Based on preliminary surveys and stuff, yes, we would.
With a
have
few
enough.
left over to
Yeah.
fill spots as needed?
Yep.
Okay.
It could be
I
tight,
mean-
could be tight, but yeah, I
Okay.
think we do.
I mean, what,
7 through 12, was there 16 girls?
I think 18,
18 girls. And that was just Parkston girls.
yeah.
I don't want to sound self-serving, but I mean, with co-ops, you sometimes lose your autonomy a little bit, but once again, I'm not trying to leave Ethan out in the cold on this deal either. So, I mean, sanctioning it to me is an easy decision, but this is a little bit more difficult. I don't.
But will there be a JV team
Well,
and a varsity team then?
I was just
That's our hope, yeah.
So I'm thinking, they'll probably have a mixture of kids who will maybe be JV, varsity, so you maybe won't be taking a whole lot away from our students, but more or less adding to the team.
Because if you have 18 kids, you need 9.
Yeah,
On
I
the
mean,
team,
you
so-
maybe have a couple that overlap, but, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the dynamics of who is, and where our talent is dispersed, I don't know, but I
But the spec what class we're in either.
think it will.
Take it
It'll be
definitely
again really close, but I think
Oh.
it'll probably bump
See,
us up
that's
to
another caveat.
Has Ms. Hammock weighed in on this at all? I know she was open to it initially, but
Okay.
she's aware that they want to.
Yep.
And it would affect which class we fall in?
I believe so. We'd have to really crunch the numbers because it's pretty close.
Especially
With our
with
enrollment
Roman
changing
moving
and
up.
stuff, yeah.
Does it go by female count or is this overall?
Overall, I
The only one that goes by
boys.
It's your
is
name.
boys
yeah.
football. Yeah.
Does Mr. Hawkins, would he like a decision like sooner than later, or?
Oh, I put it on his agenda, I agreed to put it on our agenda, and,
Needs to be
his
done by
consent.
October.
Excuse me?
Needs to be done by October.
Yeah.
Yeah, his consensus is that he has, in his perspective and the people that he's talked to, the board is very much in favor. And what they're looking for is simply an opportunity for those girls to be part of a softball program. And with no intentions of, drawing lines in the sand and, school color mascot, playing time, this, that, or the other, who's coaching, none of that. It's just like, if you guys have it, can we be part of it? Type of
Okay,
deal.
so they'd be willing to play under Parks and Stan?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep,
So
I'm pretty-
did Abby know about that it may change which class we fall in? Does she care about that, or,
We talked about that, yeah.
and she was okay with that?
I think so. I mean,
Okay.
It doesn't change our schedule.
Okay,
Okay.
Because it's not like you have to play all these A schools, because you're gonna play anybody who's within your area, so.
Yeah.
until you get your
Sure,
stage.
correct me if I'm
Till
wrong, but
regions.
Yeah.
you've already done the legwork on establishing a
Yeah.
schedule,
Right
correct?
now I have 12 games scheduled, with 6 and 6, and then the hope would be to get a couple tournaments. I've reached out on some tournaments, and I think they're just gonna get back to me later. They wouldn't commit to letting me into a tournament yet, but you can play up to 20 games, and if we get 3 or 4 games at a tournament, we'd be kind of right where we wanna be. So for right now, this first year, I just kind of looked surrounding area teams and tried to reach out to all of those schools, and, so yeah, we got scheduled 12 games, we got home umpires lined up and stuff like that, so.
6 on 6, you mean 6 home, 6 away?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, balance.
I mean, I guess.
Jed, you bring up a good point, sorry, Jill, but what I'm hearing you saying, just so there's clarification here, and with the directive you want me to go back to Mr. Hawkins with, is certainly, but it's not gonna be Ethan Parkston Minotaurs.
No, yeah.
It's gonna be Parkston only. I don't know, I mean, I can take it back to him.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you have Ethan Parkston Minotaurs cross country, you have Ethan Parkston Minotaurs track and field, and you're right, it's Parkston. What is our name on that? Do you know it's Parkston area?
Just, Parks and softball.
No, I'm talking wrestling,
Oh.
sorry.
I think it's just Parks.
It's just Parkston.
Is it just Parkston? I think
believe
so. I think it's just the Parkston Trojans in wrestling.
That's why I was wondering, because
Yeah,
it's just
right.
like, they don't match, and it's
No,
fine
no.
that they don't match up, but I
Yeah.
was like, so then what do you do? It's not like it's a standard across all of our co-ops.
Right.
Anyway,
If that
I,
is the expectation,
Yeah.
I suspect that would not, on their part, be a deal breaker.
Okay.
We'd have to propose it to them in that format.
How many students do they, or how many girls do they feel that would be involved in?
He
softball?
told me 4 for sure.
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
as long as the coach and, the
Yeah.
group of people wanting to do it don't care about I mean, that's fine if they want to play, and they know they want to play, and they've been playing with the team anyway
Just gonna say.
in the summer,
they've
so
gone out and played
they already are
Parkston.
used to
Yeah.
playing with them.
Yeah.
no, I see nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts, Matt? Yeah.
No, I agree.
You good?
Yeah, it's about education, right?
Yep.
And it's an opportunity for kids. And, yeah, I don't, some past boards got caught up with the names. I don't personally, because I think it's leave it up to the kids. But again, that's just a personal.
Yeah, I'm good with it if everybody else
I'm
is.
fine with that.
Okay, do we need a motion to approve that?
Please.
Okay, so moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Nebo and second by Turner to approve a softball cooperative with Ethan.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, we'll move to discussion item E, which is building project change orders. The school board will hear an update on the HVAC and new building project and discuss possible change orders for the proposed remodel of the high school office, entry, vestibule, and storm sewer.
So I put some information in your packet, and this is going back to the July conversation, just to bring you up to speed on some of that stuff. When we got the first RFP and change order on the addition to the teacher's workspace, we looked at that number and it was 142,000. And you guys asked for some clarification at the time. And what I put in your packet is some information as to the breakdown of the three bigger items on that overall $142,000. And that is the information that is in Procore. Procore is a software that I can go into and look at any of the vendors and their bids, not their bids, but their proposals as to what those components or those changes are gonna cost. So I thought it'd be more descriptive of that. I did have the conversation with architect and Pitts Construction. They explained it to me, some of those numbers that you see about Pitts's number of 47, the plumbing number of 30, and the heating HVAC of 27 as to actually what was included in that. They clarified that information for me, and once they did that, then those numbers I felt were a little bit more justified and they were in line. So the rough carpentry subcontracts and the amount of work that they did, Pitts Construction into themselves, that they did go into that, there were several components of what they were doing that I missed. And once they explained it to me, like I said, it made more sense. Same with the plumbing and the HVAC component. What I did find out is that number is actually, part of that change order was work that had to be done differently. What is going to be in part C, and that is the remodeling of the weight room. And there's work that's included in that change order, not just area B of the high school office and the workroom. So it's encompassing all of that, and that was not clear to me, but when I sat down with them, they clarified that. So I'm hoping, you know, we still don't like the number per se, but if that gives you some clarification, Matt, you know, Scott, John, and Jill and Jed, just kind of bringing you up to speed, because that was some of the angst, if that makes sense from the July meeting. Any questions?
Differently in the weight room, is that what you said?
Excuse me?
Work can be done differently in the weight room?
There were some changes, that were included in that HVAC price that will go into area C, which is the remodel of the weight room.
Remodel the current rate, current weight room, gotcha.
Yeah,
The current weight room? Oh.
the current weight room. It's the remodel of the weight room and turning it into the training room. There were some questions on that. One was a relocation of venting on that because of the new building going up. And where it currently comes out, they had to do some restructuring of that. So that's that clarification that you asked for. Again,
Yeah, that's fine, I just think it would be separate items, but
You wanted it more detailed?
no, I just,
clarification, I think. I wanted that too, so. And those other components, those where you can see the breakdown now. It gives you a breakdown. I mean, you can see labor, equipment, materials, you know, stuff like that, but it's still not very descriptive in my mind. And I made that known, that can it be any more than that? And he said, well, this is just how the process works and that's how we do it. So I'm like,
you know, any word on the credits yet?
yeah, that's all. Yep. So, and I suspect I probably didn't put that one in there.
I don't see that.
No, my fault. So there is one credit, and that is the revamp of the stoop on the east side at the high school entryway. And they have that new ramp poured. If you're ever on that back side of the building, you can go look at that. And the savings on that is the capture of not tearing out the court stoop that's there and then redoing it all and putting in new handrails, because that's what was spec'd. So to take all that, was this cost savings of 14,000, and then, but to build the ramp was another 2. So you're $12,000 ahead by not tearing out the stoop. And I do have that document, obviously forgot to put it in here.
So then it would be minus off of this. This is how much is the extra? added on?
No, so eventually, no, that's a different concept. So eventually what you'll see there is in a change order like that where you're getting a deduct, a pay deduct, eventually in Barcher's total bid, they're going to make that much less and when it comes time to pay them, so when they submit for payment.
Just be less than what?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. What I still do not have yet is the stoop
The locker.
in the locker rooms and the busting out that whole floor and doing the chase work. I've yet to see a deduct on that component.
They're probably not ready for that part yet.
What's
So
that?
they're probably not even thinking about that part yet.
No, that's item C. I mean, that's
The last, yeah.
So
But I
they'll-
did express my, again, I said I find it ironic when it comes time to do a change order, that's something that wasn't in the spec. And the costs that are associated with that seem to be inflated and elevated. And I said, correct me if I'm wrong. Yes or no? Yes. I said, what is disheartening is the amount in which vendors add to that component when you're asking to do something differently and it wasn't in the original spec. I said, the rub is versus the deduct. I said, and you're all sitting here staring at me right now and telling me if I'm wrong. I said, it seems to be far less on the deduct versus what it is on the change order and the extra cost. And I said, is that an industry standard and that's how the industry works? You would be right in that assumption and you were right as to how that approach is done. That's what happens in the industry. I said, well, that's disheartening. And they said, noted. I don't know what one can do about it. It's the nature of the industry. So on the floor deduct in the weight room, instead of busting it out and carrying it out in 5-gallon pails, because that would have been Pitts' part of that job, leaving the floor that's in there, and then cutting in chase work and taking little bits out to run the plumbing that needs to go underneath that floor. And then the remodel of the stoop to nothing more than a platform, just a 4-inch stoop that the lockers are gonna sit on, and we're gonna buy benches for the kids to sit on. If we're gonna realize, knowing that it was $12,000 savings on the front stoop, that this is gonna be some sort of windfall of savings on item C or area C, I would not put all my eggs in that basket.
And once the change order comes back, we have the option to approve it or not, correct?
You do.
Well, I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but if it's not a big savings, make them do it.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I mean,
And they designed it that way because Arc Inc.'s approach is that that's how we design locker rooms, and that's what's in the schools that we have built within the last however many years. You know, so you're right, Matt, it's a great approach. If it's not gonna get you a labor cost savings because, well, 10,000, that's all we're gonna save on that? Well, guess what?
take it out.
Go ahead, get your jackhammers and get the 5-gallon buckets out and do it that way then. I don't know, is that mean-spirited? I don't know. I think it's part of the business.
Yep.
If they want to tell you that's just part of the industry, well, then you know what? Then we'll do it the way it was spec'd.
Yes.
Because that's what we're gonna pay for anyway.
Yep.
It's already in there, right? So, and I haven't seen that yet. I don't know the reason. I think, like Craig said, it's not even on there right
Yeah, they're not thinking about that part yet of the project. Is there gonna be handrails going along that sidewalk that they put up in the back there? I just noticed those aren't in there yet.
No,
right?
no.
Okay.
But that will have to be installed.
Yeah,
So I wanted to, circle back to that because you asked me to go investigate that and have some conversations. The HVAC project, in my conversations with our engineer on that, and moving forward. Just a little update, you heard we have gym in the air, or air in the gym. One unit is working, the other one is not. Apparently there's a leak in the coil on the other one, is what I was told. I don't know if that's accurate or not, and how bad it is, if it's something they can fix. But the kitchen does now have air, the cafeteria, they got that unit running. All of the units in the high school end are running, all the rooms have air. There are several units that they still gotta come back, the ceiling units, and do the tile grid. Yet, they haven't done that. And there's just little things like putting the covers back on. We still haven't done anything with the carpet, and I don't know if that's gonna get done. But anyway, the guard unit did get replaced, so I got air back in the National, we got air back in the National Guard, and they were very thankful for that, because I actually got a call from somebody up the food chain in the National Guard. That was fun. You know, the question there is, are they gonna do something in the NPR? And the last conversation I had collectively as a team, that was something they were gonna work on in the fall, because it's not disruptive to the educational process. They can go up in those 2 spaces up there and do whatever they need to do. I have yet to have that conversation to see if that's something that they're still gonna move forward with. Next year, my gravest concern, and I expressed that, I had the conversation with Mr. DeWitt, and I said, us as a school board, here's what we would like to see, and essentially a very stringent, spelled out timeline with dates on it. You will have this done by this date, then you will have this done by this date, this done by this date, and spell it out throughout the whole summer, knowing that they're gonna have almost 40 units to replace on this end, knowing that they got, probably have to give them credit now, 23 units done on this end. And he said, we can do that. And I said, the accountability then is not only that, but I said, I want somebody here on a weekly basis, whether it's you or somebody else, to say, it's with me, this done? Nope, this isn't done. It said we were supposed to be done, this is the timeline. No material hang-ups. Everything's here. What is the problem? Why can't we get this thing moving and meet these timelines? Now it's a personnel issue, it's a human resource, honestly. So if that's the case, then we better have an answer to that problem, because we're not gonna go up to August 16th next year in this whole process. And the engineers said we will put that together and we will have that conversation so they're fully aware of the expectation.
And I assume Vince will have that laid out for their side project next year.
So on the new build, that exact same conversation took place, and that exact same approach will be taken. And, I'm trying to think of the right term, with very detailed oversight, with very little room for excuses before a major decision is made. Short leash, I guess?
But can we find somebody else to do it in time to get it done for the federal guidelines by September?
There you go, that's just.
I had that conversation with him, and I said, and
With Josh or with who? Damon?
and I said, that's not gonna be my problem. They said, I'm not doing this again, so you better start building some capacity. And the same conversation I had with Pitt's Construction. And both said, well, that goes back on us then. Engineer, construction manager, they have to go above and beyond. They have to make that relationship, they have to bring somebody else in order to get the project completed, whether it's on the new or.
But do we have that in writing
It's
anywhere?
this
What
retro.
that date is for federal? Because we got all the requirements to do with the federal funding. and the
Have what in
inspections.
writing?
Well, that it's done by this date.
Yeah, and that'll be part of the completion date, that when it's set, when we go through that
I just know, you know,
document.
like this year, we didn't get 18 of them done till August 1st. Well, what happens if they get 18 done August 1st next year and they got
Yep.
23 to go?
Yep, no, that's not gonna happen.
I just mean, we
And you're
can't,
right, you
and
can
if we can't collect the federal funds, then is what I'm saying. Then we gotta pay for it out of our pockets.
Yeah, no. They know that. And that's why I think appropriate measures would be taken sooner than later to ensure that this is, it meets expectation.
How big of a mess does it make when they come into a room? If they were coming to come into one room and do something, how big of a mess does it make?
It's the timing of it, the destruction of it, it's done in an hour. But then it's putting it back together, and because things are done systemically with the plumber and then the control guys, and then getting everything back to where it needs to be, because things are tied together and daisy chained, that's where you have a tendency to leave it open
Yep.
for an extended period of time. So that's what creates difficulty. And you're right, I thought about that, but, you know, could we let them do one room at a time to get
Well, I
that
just
point? And I thought of that.
Christmas
but-
break type thing.
Yeah,
But,
could they get something done in a timely manner on that?
But I don't wanna cause havoc for the school if it's
Right.
gonna turn into a mess.
I think you probably could, but based on what's transpired here,
Yeah.
it certainly brings into question, and you're back to your point, Craig, well, what guarantee are we gonna have there? I can only tell you what I've been told, and I will work emphatically and draw lines in the sand with these people and say, we're not doing this. And you better have, this better happen. If this happens, then this is the route we're going to travel. Why? Because I'm telling you that because we're the owners. You're going to do this. Whether you want to or not, we're telling you, if it's removal from the job, or it's bringing somebody else in while they're working beside them, and bringing another company in here to do that. I mean, keeping track of who's doing what, and then who's gonna get paid what out of the project, that's, I mean, we'll have to vet that, but that's not our deal. That's what you paid them, whatever, close to 100,000 for, out of the whole project. So, that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm continuing those conversations. There was supposed to be a meeting set up this week, and it, for whatever, I think maybe I canceled it, just because I was busy doing something. I mean, it wasn't like, hey, can you make this work? It was an invite for this date and this time. I'm like, they didn't even ask me. I got stuff to do. I got things going on. I gotta get school back and going. I'm like, so I declined it. I said, this isn't gonna work for me. So give me another suggestion, right? I mean, I'm not gonna change what I need to do in my scope of work to meet their schedule. I didn't feel I should have to do that.
So whatever is leaking and it's is that brand new? It's leaking.
It was,
Yeah.
they got them both working this afternoon.
So is there like a warranty on that? Like
I
if
think
it's
it's
already been
compensation,
leaking,
though.
like that gives me anxiety.
Oh, is that what it was?
I think so.
Sure, it costs $1
Something like
billion,
that.
whatever it is.
They were both working
Yeah.
in the end. I remember the custodian said that. to
And
me.
that was just the information I got from control guys.
And you were gone prior to that,
Yeah, I
yeah.
thought it was just maybe one of the coils was leaking, but if it was condensation tube, that's no biggie. That's
Okay.
done
Yeah.
deal.
It's not a big deal.
Yep, that's
Sounds
just-
terrible to me.
That's
but-
plastic.
It wasn't like there's a big puddles all
Okay,
over.
it sounds
No,
like things
nothing
are
like that.
shooting out everywhere and it's leaking. I'm like, oh no.
There was water shooting out of my ceiling
Oh.
last Friday.
And yours.
It's good now.
Okay, good. Good, okay. All right. Any
So
other
that's,
comments?
well, that's where we're at with things. And I anticipate the remodel for the high school office at the end of August, we will be in there. The carpet's here. We're waiting for the brick to show up that in order to fill in around the windows. And the chase that houses the new, or the old HVAC unit in the new vestibule there. And once the bricklayer gets here, we look at, the windows are here, the carpet's here, FM acoustical, They gotta show up, put the ceiling tile in, and Fisher Electric was here today, I saw him, I think working in the room, outlets and things like that. Then they can drop the lights in, and then, you know, the cabinetry will be shipped next, or at the end of this week. The cabinets are coming. And then it's just a matter of setting those, and that shouldn't really take a whole lot. I talked to Tony and he said, we can have those set in a day, not even half a day. And back to the HVAC, the duct sock got delayed. Supposed to be here at the end of last week, supposed to put it in all this week. Now it's supposed to be here on Friday, and then we have to work around school in order to get the duct sock hung in the armory. So, and then work with him on the schedule to do that.
So we don't have any home things in the gym for a little bit, right?
Yep. We'll have to have some PE stuff outside for now, give them the opportunity to work in there, but.
And haven't looked for all, are we on schedule on the building?
Yep, so Area B, Berkshire was here today pouring the inside fields. So, for the most part, that thing is pretty much on task. All the steel is back in the parking lot back there, so once Williams shows up, he'll be here on site and he'll get that foundation on the outside. That's where all your precast is gonna sit, or your windows are gonna sit.
Sure.
And he doesn't have a lot to work to do, but, and then the next step would be bringing your precast in and getting it going, so. And they won't finish the west footing and the foundation because they want to get the cement trucks in and out.
Sure.
And it saves a little money on the pumper truck and stuff. And right now, pumper trucks are few and far between. So, sorry, I apologize.
I don't want you to lose your mind during the meeting. Okay, anything else about the building and stuff?
I'm sorry for.
You're good. Need an update, okay. All right, we will move on to F. Discussion item is separation of athletic director duties.
Mr. Fisher, Mr. Knickling brought this concept to me, now that they're both coaching and, you know, a little more on their plate and making sure that, you know, all the areas of need are being addressed and being addressed appropriately. They sat down and went through that and proposed it to me and Mr. Bruning. We sat down and visited, talked about it. Certainly that there is no extra stipend that's associated with that. Adam and Cole know that. And, you know, I'll let Mr. Fisher speak to anything you guys have questions on. I believe I put the separation of duties in the packet, so you have a chance to maybe who's doing what. So if you have any questions for him, I have no concerns with it. I have no argument to go against it. It's a team approach. I'll be supportive wherever I can in this whole process as well. I have no problem, excuse me, with doing that. So questions, concerns about. And then we would have to redo contracts, correct me, or an addendum, Craig, right, because of the separation of duties and.
And just coming up with what that, until they figured out exactly what each of them were doing to know what the percentage was. And that's amongst them too, to,
They wanna go 50-50, 60-40, 80-20, I don't know.
and that's how we talked about it, right?
Yeah, yeah, we talked about 20 or 25% for Cole. So, yeah, this just came out of, you know, Cole and I talking this spring and through the summer. You know, my fall is very busy and his winter is very busy, and so kind of got talking back and forth. How we looked at it and splitting this up is, you know, after being here a couple of years, I have all the contacts from area schools. We didn't want to try to confuse other schools of like, who am I contacting, if it's what season, that type of thing. So when we looked at it, made sense that with our, you know, clubs and the fine arts, Cole has those teachers on his end. It's a real easy communication thing for them. They see him on a daily basis, for them to communicate with him, and so for him to take charge of those. And then the transportation is also just our coaches, so it's easy enough for us to communicate that out to our coaches, and then Cole would be in charge of coordinating all of the transportation piece. You know, and with that, there's stuff you're just constantly just checking because things get rescheduled and you adjust lead time. So looking at that, and then he also becomes the kind of the tournament director for our fall events. And so we have a volleyball tournament, we have a golf tournament, we have a cross-country meet that we host. Those are pretty big undertakings. And so he would become the person that's in charge of coordinating that. I'll still work behind the scenes to make sure everything is ordered and organized. I'll handle all the officials, all the scheduling and that stuff. But he would just become the director of those things. So that's, when we talked, we thought kind of works, it helps me out, and it also, I think, makes sense with his location and the people that he's working with on a daily basis to make communication easier, hopefully, more efficient, better. So that's where we're at with it, and how the idea came about. And we work well together, so it just helps to have another person to communicate. I mean, we're talking about all the things that come across my desk anyways, or his desk, and so just a way to share some of that.
Craig, you feel because it's contractual, do we need actual motion on that or blessing? Or what are you
Not
thinking?
now, until next month when we actually break the two contracts up and figure out the percentage of it. Because I didn't have their contracts ready to sign, because I didn't know what they were gonna decide. I know what we talked about, but I didn't redo the amendments, and we'll just approve those amendments at the next board meeting.
Okay. So
If you're inclined.
Yeah, if that's something you guys are willing to be okay with.
So if somebody
Totally agree.
needs-
It's
oh,
a
go ahead.
huge job, so.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want, if somebody's needing to contact the AD, like,
Still it would still just, everything's all through
everything still
me.
goes through you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Okay.
kind of like an assistant.
Yeah,
Okay.
essentially, yeah. We termed it co-curricular and transportation director would be Cole's title, but yeah.
He's your assistant? I bet he'd really love to hear that.
We talked about that, but yeah, I don't know, it's more just to keep communication with what everybody knows. We don't have to change that or adjust that to the public or anybody. It all still comes through me. We would handle some things together, but everything would still come through me. It'd just be with the fine arts and clubs would work through him. If there are issues, we're still gonna handle those together. That way, we just thought communication-wise, nobody really has to adjust except the people that are in our own building that we talk to on a daily basis, so it is easy enough to communicate.
So I know that you were kind of working with the coaches and getting a routine of like evaluations and kind of in a like culture change process. So you'll still be doing all of that?
Still do that, and then Cole and I have talked that maybe he would help with the fall ones.
Sure.
This first year, what we talked about is that we would do those together, so we can see what those conversations have looked like and kind of what we've been doing and working to kind of take those over in the coming year potentially. But then as well too, like a big thing that I want to try to get going this year is working with our high schoolers and the leaders up there and trying to get maybe a monthly meeting going with them. And so again, it'd be nice to have his partnership in that. I mean, not to say we wouldn't do that regardless, but just having him working in that role too, just helps us bring kids down and have a monthly meeting and starting to talk leadership. So that'd be something that we could do together then, that we've talked about. So just another facet of it.
Okay. So we just don't need, we don't need anything today, we'll do it next time.
I'll get to
Okay.
Blessing and proceed.
amendments
Yeah,
ready, and
I
then you
think
guys can
it's
approve
fine.
them next week.
Absolutely.
Neat. Okay. All right, so we will move to action items. Action item A is to approve financial report. School board will review the July financial report for discussion and approval.
Does anybody have any questions? I did include the capital outlay certificates section in there. I have not transferred anything over to the capital outlay from there yet. That number, that $7,004,579.05 was the amount that was deposited back in May. And I did not have it on the June one. I should have probably, but I did not to you. So I entered it in there as a section for that beginning cash balance, and there's nothing else because there was no expenditures out of there yet. And for the interest, there is interest earned on that, and I think in 2 months we're already at about $50,000. So first, the stuff in June I had to do from May to June 30th for the end of the fiscal year. And that one, I believe, was 23,000, it's called unearned interest yet because it hasn't technically been deposited into the savings account, but it shows me how much is unearned on the statements. And just so you know, so you're aware of that.
Reminder that we can,
Transfer that back over to the,
yeah, but we can only earn so much.
oh yeah, because of the arbitrage rate, yep.
So we're restricted. It's not like we can just keep filling the bucket.
Yeah.
Which would be nice.
The rate isn't as high as our other savings because of the arbitrage rate.
Obviously, quite a few expenses going on in the capital outlay.
Then it needs to be replenished, yes. You'll have another one. There was some for in June that I did not replenish, and then there's a $400,000 one that was approved tonight. 412, so I'll have to, this month I'll have to transfer out of there into the other capital outlay, bring that balance back up to speed. And then you'll see that one go down. So that's why I figured I better track it and put it in a column for you and everything on the financial report. Any other questions?
All right, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second it, Craig.
Moved by Fleischner, second by Prohl. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, we'll move to action item B, which is approve handbook changes. The school board will conduct the final review of the proposed changes being recommended for the 6 through 12 elementary and athletic handbook.
So this is actually you've read the first two readings, you made some suggestions for some changes. I believe Mr. Fisher, especially in the athletic handbook, we had no real issues in the elementary or the secondary handbook. I think some of those were already, we felt pretty good about that, or you felt pretty good about that, but there was some information that you directed us to come back with on the athletic handbook. And it really had to center around the eligibility policy based on violations. So we sat down, we had some conversations about that, and I'll let Mr. Fisher discuss that. It's more of his project than it is mine, but we did discuss and try to come up with what we felt was a resolution that would be something we could all maybe hopefully agree to, and taking into account some of the concerns. The main concern last month was one, if we had a winter like we had this year, you know, we're having maybe 4 games in a week or sometimes 5 games in a week kind of concept, what's gonna happen, you know, with that. So I think Mr. Fisher's addressed some of those areas.
Yeah, so I took a look at and just really thought about some of the comments from our last meeting. And as I looked at that chart and started thinking about contests, we had a number of contests listed, and then first offense, it just kind of, I just wanted to shore it up a little bit and make it a little more concise and clear. And so in looking at it, basically guys, if you look at the training rules and regulations.
Can I just ask a question? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I wasn't here last month, so what was brought up?
So in our, I'm proposing this athletic activities handbook. In the one that I proposed, there was a chart that I had found. Yep, that chart right there, which listed the activity, how many events that they had, and then based on that, it was like, had some numbers identified with what would happen first offense, second offense.
Okay.
And as I started looking at that, and I went back and kind of double checked, because the question came up about how many band events do we go to, and it was my fault and overlooked it and missed that it was an old number on band events. Anyways, so I was looking through it, reflecting on it, and I wanted to just kind of simplify things. And so I looked back through a couple other handbooks and other schools, what they were doing, talked with Mr. M some as well. And so I kind of went down, if you look at the Roman numeral 2, steps in discipline, that's the stuff where now I have taken out that chart, and basically said first offense would be 2 weeks or 2 events, whichever is greater. Now with that, and looking at some things and talking with Mr. M, one thing that I saw pop up, if the student would come in to a situation and take accountability, admit what happened, then you would lessen their discipline, what was
Penalty.
lessen their penalty to a 1 week or one event, whichever would be greater. So Mr. M and I talked about that. I think, and it seemed like, John, you had some questions and we had good discussion on making sure it's not too harsh. We want our students to be able to learn from a mistake and not penalize them to a point where they just kind of give up. And so really reflecting on that, so first offense, 2 weeks or 2 events, but if you come in, own your mistake, admit it, and Mr. M and I even talked, you call them into your, to my office, and the conversation is, hey, do you know why you're here? At that point, if they share, yes, this is the violation that I, did, well, that's admitting it. It doesn't have to be, they're kids, they're learning. So, to me, that's what I looked at. And then going to then second offense, looking at 4 weeks or 4 events, whichever is greater, but along those same lines, if you're willing to own it and come in and say something about it, lessening that to 3 weeks or 3 events. So looking at that, and then if there's a third offense, I'm sorry, your season's over. Because giving you a couple of times to. So got rid of the chart, switched to wording, kind of explained it in those steps. I thought maybe that was more concise, more just instead of, as I was reading through and reflecting on our conversations, it just left too much up in the air for my liking of, well, we only have 7 events, now you're saying I have to miss 2, so it's just blanket, 2 weeks, 1 week if you own it, that type of deal. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but went back, reflected on it, looked at other schools, talked with Mr. M, and that's what I came up with. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that, how you feel about that.
During that time frame, they can still work practice. They just can't compete in an event, is
Correct.
what you're saying.
Yep, and go to practice. How they're used in that practice might change. If we're talking like a starter, you're probably not being that starter in practice anymore, but you're still practicing and being a member of the team. Yep. And then along with that, I did put, because Mr. M and I were talking about, we had a crazy winter, at times with basketball, I think we had maybe a 2-week span where there's maybe
5 games in 7 days.
Yeah. And so you're looking at a 2-week span that could be 10 games potentially. And so I did write in here that, depending on the situation, administration can get together, we'll review, think about where we're at with things, and always has the right to adjust as they deem fit based on the situation. It's kind of that X factor rule, just so it doesn't get to, it's not black and white always. There are always some circumstances that pop up. So wrote that in as well into that, into those steps. So hopefully you think that meets kind of what we talked about at our last meeting. I think it allows for the kids to learn, to own it. There's still some skin in the game where it can still affect them.
I like that.
For clarification, what is self-reporting? We talked about that, and if we have the expectation that the rumor's out, that the admin knows, and you think they're gonna come down the door, and that's your definition of self-reporting, that's not what we felt was appropriate. It's, hey, I have this information, you bring them in, close the door, like Mr. Fisher said, you know why you're here? Pretty good idea. Okay, so what do you got? What do you got to say? Yeah, okay, that's what we're talking about, self-reporting. Not them coming, falling on their sword unwarranted or unsolicited or anything of that nature. Can they do that? Absolutely. Well, has it happened in my several years of doing this? I don't know that I can recount one time that that's ever taken place, but you still have to give the kids the opportunity. Now, if you say, do you know where you're here? No. You have no idea? You've done nothing to tell me? No. Okay, well then, that ship has sailed. And then if it comes out, well, too late, dude. You had your option or opportunity. So we just want to make sure that we understood on that.
That's good. You guys.
And then, John, I think you also asked about, it said junior high in there, so I did switch that. There was just one spot in there, switch that to middle school. I didn't hand that sheet to you, but I did switch that as well, so. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Need a
So we need a
motion
motion.
Yep.
to approve those, all three of them, right?
Yes, sir.
So moved. Moved by Schoenfelder, second by Turner. Any other discussion? And that's to approve the 23-24 elementary handbook, 6 through 12 student handbook, and athletic handbook. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, there's nothing for executive session, so we'll adjourn at 8 o'clock. I need a motion to approve.
So moved. I'll second.
Moved by Leishman, second by Crowell. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.